After seeing the release and success of the new Alien movie, it reminded me to go back and actually watch the originals, as I hadn't seen them in a very long time, and even then, I don't remember actually watching them all the way through. So I watched Alien 1 and Aliens, which are both phenomenal movies that have aged outstandingly, especially when you consider just how long ago they were both made. And the third one is definitely a movie, I guess.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
But after rewatching those original movies, it got me thinking, what about the game? Alien Isolation launched on October 6th, 2014 and was developed by a studio called Creative Assembly, who are best known for making the Total War series. Also, the game was published by Sega, of all companies, which is probably the last company I'd expect to publish an Alien game. Alien Isolation begins by introducing us to Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda, as it's now been 15 years since the events of the first Alien movie, and Amanda has been concerned about her mum's disappearance ever since she left when Amanda was just 10 years old. Amanda is greeted quite ominously by a man named Samuels.
I'm Samuels. I work for the company.
Who tells her they've found a station that may have the flight logs from her mother's ship, and that's all the convincing she needs to go with them despite the major risks it could offer, as clearly Amanda's still been holding on to hope that she'll find her mother even after all these years. Unfortunately, if you've seen the movies, you already know how that ends, but I guess you could maybe find some closure instead. And just like that, the game throws us right into the gameplay, as you wake up from hypersleep ready for action. Now, first thing I need to point out before anything else is how spot on the atmosphere is of this game, and you immediately get a feel of it from the get-go, even when nothing's necessarily happened yet. It really feels like you've just been transported straight into that opening scene from the first movie. And although the concept and design of each room may not feel all that original in comparison, it's still extremely impressive how well they've translated the movie's feel to a video game format. It also helps that graphics wise, this game has aged spectacularly. Yes, some of the facial animations and lip syncing are a bit dated, but overall I can't judge it too harshly when the game's been out for over a decade now. So after taking a quick look around the place and making some great conversation with your fellow crewmates,
Taylor, good morning. Ripley, it's certainly not good. I very much doubt it's morning either. Sorry. I feel like death. I don't know how you people put up with hypersleep.
one of which is a robot disguised as a human, by the way. Bet you can't guess who that is.
Ah, Ripley.
Samuels, did you wake up early?
Well, I don't really need as much sleep as the rest of you.
Amanda quickly gets to work making her way onto the nearby station called Sevastopol. But oh no, would you look at that, something's went horribly wrong. Now you've lost your friends and have to explore the ship all by yourself. It's almost got me feeling isolated or something.
Oh, brother.
Seriously though, this is where the game really picks up. The atmosphere is now taking center stage as you traverse the empty hallways of a ship currently going through absolute turmoil. And this is also what introduces the game's biggest strength to me: suspense. As you're venturing through the wrecked halls and claustrophobic vents, you can't help but feel like the game's building to one big scare. I mean, we all know what the game's about. Let's be real here. We know what we're dealing with, and that's what makes it so much more tense. The fact that you know it could appear any second, and the eerie environments and constant sounds take full advantage of that. You're kept constantly on edge throughout this game, and that's exactly how a horror-focused Alien game should be. We're also quickly made accustomed to one of many old-style computers you can interact with in-game, which can hold a ton of extra information to read or audio clips to listen to. Just a bunch of Alien Isolation lore, which is always nice. But they can also give you important codes for doors or safes, and you can activate all sorts of stuff on board too. Also, I know that this 70s to 80s style of technology was something they were sort of forced to include due to the first movie being made in that era, but honestly I like it a lot. Having a futuristic sci-fi setting with old technology merged in doesn't just keep the Alien franchise separate from many other movies and games that do that same trope, but it also kind of makes sense. I mean, in space currently, it's not like they always use technology that is top of the line, as anything too recent either wouldn't work right or just isn't as reliable. So basically, I'm happy that they chose to stick to the older technology used in the original movies. It gives the game a bit more personality without taking away any of its immersion. So after powering up your part of the ship using a nearby terminal, you then come across a group of people running from something. I have no idea what that could be about. I doubt it's anything important. Then we learn how to craft, which is an extremely vital part of the game, as there are many components to find that can be used for crafting all sorts of things, like flashbangs, EMP mines, flares, and even pipe bombs. But until we start finding blueprints, for now we can only craft a medkit. After a couple boring QuickTime events needed to power some generators, which helped remind me that this game was made in 2014 way more than the graphics ever could, we then meet our first new character.
What's your name?
Axel.
But personally, I think Scottish Agent 47 is a way better name, so I'm sticking with it. So Scottish Agent 47 is kind of losing his mind. He knows there's something killing people on the station, but he doesn't know what.
Something's on this station. Something you wouldn't believe.
Like what?
A killer. You get it?
Okay.
He eventually agrees to help Amanda after doing his very best Walter White impression.
Why?
Because you seem to know your way around.
I mean, why? What's in it for me?
And is promised a place on her ship if everything goes to plan. Which of course it doesn't, as this game's runtime isn't an hour long. But in the meantime, he kind of acts as our tutorial. Now he may be a bit cold-hearted and ruthless.
We're trying to get to comms. Can you help us?
We don't need their help.
Don't tell them anything. Look, I've got the elevator working. Jana, let's go, okay?
I'm sorry. Good luck.
What the hell was that about? Why are you so damn aggressive?
But to be fair here, he is Scottish. It's kind of our whole gig.
Look at this fucking muppet. He is using a fucking leaf blower to blow the leaves off the pavement when it's fucking 80-mile-an-hour winds. What an absolute fucking plum.
Now of course, Scottish Agent 47 is a master of combat, and giving out some top tier Scottish dialogue that would make any American wish they put on subtitles. But he also shows us how to use vents, which is pretty self-explanatory. He tells us a very broad description of what's going on that leaves more questions than answers.
I need to know what's going on. Right fucking now.
Fine. Like I said, there's a killer.
A killer. What does that even mean?
I ain't seen it, but it's here. Picking us off one by one.
What are you saying? A psycho? A person?
No, something else. A monster.
Why can't they just say alien? I know it's a bit on the nose, but come on now, like...
Oh, and he has a non-existent reaction time.
Axel, behind you.
What? That's so goofy, man. They're right behind me, aren't they? But he does have a gun, so he's got something going for him, I guess. At least he did, until the xenomorph decides to appear for the first time and off him almost immediately. Like, how the fuck is a Scottish man the first to die in an Alien game? It just makes us look bad. We are then pursued by the alien for the first time, kind of. I mean, it sort of just waits around until the last second while we call in the slowest transport car of all time. Fucking hell, this is the slowest shit I've ever seen. But it's still pretty tense. Also, I didn't realize that after getting in, I had to go all the way to the back and press A to activate it, which was great fun to find out. How do I... Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Oh shit! What the fuck? After successfully escaping the alien for the first time with no issues whatsoever that made me waste a good 10 minutes of my life.
Okay, gotta be quiet here.
Oh no, what? Why am I back here? What the fuck? You're then introduced to a whole new part of the station to explore that is full of a less dangerous, but still kind of dangerous threat. Humans, who are all apparently blood hungry in this game, for whatever reason.
Do you really want to take that chance?
Okay. We've Find her, kill her.
It really says a lot about our society. We're also promptly introduced to the hacking tool, which is a pretty cool feature. That is a lot more fun to use to me than most other gimmicks used in games to unlock stuff. And one less quick time event being required in this game is always a win. But oh no, the alien is back and is aliener than ever. I don't fucking know. It's scary, man. What do you want me to say? It starts attacking all the people from earlier, which is very fun to watch. Until everyone's dead and you realize you're next. But I like how this game eases you into evading the alien. The last encounter was more of a last second surprise, while this is more of a showcase of its power, and the next time is when you're truly being hunted down. After hacking the elevator and making it to the next floor, you're briefly introduced to some androids for the first time, who are extremely creepy and completely useless in terms of helping us in any way.
My name's Ripley. Amanda Ripley. I need your help.
Please take a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. Can I help you?
I need to get into comms control. It's urgent.
That is a restricted area.
It's an emergency. Don't you realize what's going on?
Apollo has the situation in hand.
Forget it. I'll find my own way in.
But at least they're harmless, right? After a bit of exploring, we finally find the iconic motion tracker, which can give us at least a little idea of where the alien is when it's nearby. But shortly after this amazing news, we're then struck by a devastating plot twist. I know this might be hard to believe, but the androids in this game actually turn evil. I don't think this has ever been done before in anything alien related. Honestly, I could be wrong here. They also have red eyes, just in case you didn't get the memo. And each one is an absolute unit. They can eat a full round of revolver shots to the head, and even a shotgun shot won't kill them in one. But on the flip side, you can stun them for ages with EMP mines and briefly with a stun baton, which at least gives those items some actual use in combat. Eventually, we make our way to the communications deck, where we contact Samuels, who has made it onto the ship with Taylor, but she's badly injured. So he sends a transit car to Amanda, and you now have to traverse all the way back to where you started, avoiding all the androids on the way. But even after you get back to the upper floor, you now need to avoid the alien again, which is the first time you're truly left to fend for yourself against it, even if it's just for a brief moment. And this is probably a good time to dive into what makes the alien so menacing in this game. In a horror survival game such as this, where you're mainly tasked with avoiding one enemy type throughout, it is extremely important that you make that enemy feel unpredictable, challenging, and actually scary, especially one that's as iconic as the Xenomorph. But thankfully, this game does an amazing job at all those requirements. The way the AI operates in this game is very unique in the sense that it's split up into two parts, one being the director AI and the other of course being the alien itself. The director AI knows the location of the alien and the player at all times, so when the Xenomorph is nearby, it'll periodically give the alien a hint to your general location. On top of that, the alien AI also uses this to learn based on your behavior. So if you tend to hide in lockers more than any other hiding spots, it will soon adapt and start checking lockers, meaning you constantly have to change up your playstyle to avoid being caught. The alien can also adapt to your weapons and tools too. So for example, if you use throwables to distract it a lot, then the alien will eventually catch on and be tricked for far less time. And even strong weapons you use on it, like the flamethrower, will be less effective against it the more it's used. Even vents aren't safe, as a Xenomorph will start searching them if you decide to start using the ventilation shafts a little too often. Of course, the alien also pursues you based on sound, so if you're running or anything near you makes too much noise, it will have no second thoughts about promptly checking that area. But if you're playing on console, you can take it one step further and turn on mic detection, so it can find you based on your mic audio too. Sadly, this isn't a feature on PC, so I didn't get to mess around with it, but honestly, that might just be a blessing in disguise.
That was fucking close. No, I fucking didn't. No!
Clearly, the AI in this game has had a ton of work put into it, and for the most part, that work has definitely paid off. I mean, it's not going to work perfectly 100% of the time. You're always going to have some weird moments in games like these where the alien should have seen you but somehow didn't.
I am a god. High IQ gamer. Let's go.
But for the most part, the AI is extremely consistent and acts as one of the main components of what makes this game so great. So after avoiding a handful of killer androids and the alien itself, you finally make it to Samuels and Taylor, just for Samuels to say, yeah, we need some medical supplies. You mind? Good job surviving so far, by the way, but you know, Taylor needs help, so chop chop. But what the fuck? Why does Amanda have to do everything all the time, man? But like the good lapdog you are, I guess, you hurry over to find some medical supplies, which leads you to a doctor named Coleman, who agrees to help you activate the elevator to the supplies, but won't go with you as he's apparently in no state to. I don't know if he's actually injured or not, but the fact that I am unsure tells me he's probably talking complete shit. So once again, you set off alone, with Dr. Coleman being about as useful as a faulty sat-nav while you do so.
The area you're in was for our more unstable patients, those who had trouble adapting to deep space.
Just tell me where to go, Coleman.
And after finding some audio recorders that Coleman has spoken to and some terminal logs speaking about him, you start to realise that he's a bit of a prick who puts his own survival over anyone else's. Kind of like what he's doing right now. But you find the facility code you were looking for, and now all you need is a physical keycard that Coleman's colleague apparently always had on him. But now an unverified life form has entered the facility. I wonder what that could be. Which makes your search for that keycard all the more difficult. So after some extremely close calls and some absolute blunders during my search in all the rooms the keycard could possibly be in, you son of a bitch. I eventually found it and got back to Coleman safe and sound. Just for Coleman to come out with one of the worst excuses I've ever heard.
Damn you, Coleman! You knew that thing was here!
Now that's unfair. I thought it might be there. There's a difference. Now the passcode.
That's crazy. So finally he primes the elevator of the passcode we found, and during his slow walk back towards the exit, I noticed something a bit weird, as there were clearly 2 dots showing up on the scanner. But you know, I'm sure it's nothing. There's no point in warning him, right? Oh. Yeah, so that's my bad. But thankfully he still activated the elevator, so we quickly used the key card and made our way down to the floor below, where we can finally find the meds. But of course it can never be that easy, as you have to find and use gas canisters to activate different doors, all while the xenomorph is still on our ass. That genuinely scared the shit out of me. And we're left with little to no hiding spots. That is actually the luckiest shit ever. But we eventually find the trauma kit we need to treat Taylor. Oh my... What the fuck? And we even find an explanation of how this all started on the way.
God, that woman needed help. I didn't know what type of parasite she had encountered, but it had planted something inside her. I am so sorry. I had no way of knowing what would happen.
So after that very bleak recording, we move swiftly on back to Taylor and Samuels. But oh no, there are people in the way who will shoot us on sight. The xenomorph also makes another guest appearance, so now you've got a huge section of the map to cover with both people and the alien roaming around the place, which made for one of the toughest sections in the game for me. But it was still pretty fun, as the dynamic of having a person shoot at you in Alien Isolation is extremely different to most other games. Rather than just having the option of firing back or running away, instead you're thinking about where the alien's going to now appear from, and what the best course of action would be to survive both of them at once. After finally making it out of this area, Amanda is still destined to be killed by the xenomorph. I've made it! Yes! Oh my god, that was so loud. Slowly moving in like it's about to start giving some sort of villain monologue. But luckily she's saved by an explosion. I guess she's almost killed by it as well, but you know, more so saved. But the worst part of all of this for Amanda is the fact that she now has to do some more old-fashioned quick time events that make me want to jump off the nearest bridge. She somehow makes it out relatively unharmed though, but of course the quick way back is blocked off after that explosion. So instead you have to go the long way, which is full of deadly enemies and a bunch of other hurdles for you to get around. At one point, you even need to activate an android to help you find a part to repair an elevator, which goes about as well as you'd expect. After spending ages powering up this android, it finds a way to kill itself in under a minute due to the most obvious hazard laid out in front of it. But it's fine, because it happened to say the general direction of the part before dying, so we were able to find it anyway and make the long trek back to the broken elevator, which went surprisingly well, as there was no sign of the alien for ages. We finally get back to Taylor and Samuels, who are now accompanied by security that almost shoot Amanda on sight, which could have made for the saddest death of all time after everything she just survived. But they hold fire and basically tell us everything we just did was for nothing.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
They apparently have a basic life support system for Taylor at HQ, but the transit is down. So once again, we are ordered to do something all by ourselves and fix the transit cars.
Transit control is upstairs. Samuels says you're an engineer. Go make yourself useful, seeing as you screwed up the trap.
Which seems easy enough until you realise there's someone already there. And on top of that, there's a deadly android that enters the room after activating the terminal. So after wasting way too many bullets on the android the first time, I instead decide to let the android in while the person is still alive, so they can act as a distraction.
No, what did you do?
Then after I'm done with the terminals, I finish the android off with a pipe bomb. As you do. After activating the transit cars, everyone else leaves while Amanda makes her way over to catch the next one, but there are a ton of people that show up just as she arrives, which I was narrowly able to avoid with them somehow not finding me.
Maybe he's found a better site to raid.
Or a way off. Does anyone else do that?
But it doesn't take long for them to leave, and we finally make it to the Marshal's HQ, the first actual safe space in the game. The Marshal tells us that he has a man named Marlowe in a cell nearby, as he's the guy that has the flight recordings Amanda's looking for from her mum's ship, which is easy to forget as being the entire reason for Amanda even being here. So she goes over to interrogate him to try and retrieve Marlowe's ship, but instead he gives us some introspection on how this entire shit show even happened, as we are transported back in time playing as Marlowe when he first discovers the alien ship while looking for salvage. Although it's definitely cool being able to fully explore the xenomorph ship, I will say this part of the game in a sheer gameplay perspective is easily the weakest in the entire game. This entire section just feels like it goes on way longer than it needs to, without having much substance to keep me invested. The dialogue between the crew is pretty basic and doesn't add much to the narrative.
I can't see shit through the storm. Maybe we should wait till it blows over.
If you two want to forfeit your cup for a little bad weather, I'll be happy to take it.
We keep going. We've got the tracker, it'll see us through.
I hope we're getting hazard pay for this.
There's nearly no tension, especially when you know how xenomorphs are made and where that happens. And even the visuals on this planet you're exploring are made up of just a bunch of fog and some rocks. So yeah, I think in the end this entire section could have greatly benefited from just being a cutscene, but one does eventually play at the very end with someone getting latched onto by a facehugger. And that same person is then brought back to Sevastopol in an attempt to save them, which of course started this entire mess. So basically the plot of Alien 1. So after that long and boring explanation, Marlowe still refuses to give up his ship.
Oh my god, bro.
But the good news is the Marshal has now decided to give you the most important weapon in the entire game by far, the flamethrower, which can actually give you a chance to fend off the xenomorph. The Marshal is also feeling a bit ballsy at this point of the game, as he apparently has a plan to trap the xenomorph, which Amanda just kind of agrees to without even hearing him out, which is wildly optimistic. It doesn't take long for us to end up using the flamethrower for the first time, which does kind of work. I mean, it didn't immediately kill us, so that's a win, I'd say. But the Marshal's plan turns out to basically involve using us as bait while we lock down all parts of the ship, and the deputy, Ricardo, aids us on the way.
Listen
But after finally locking down all nearby parts of the ship and trapping the xenomorph, Ricardo decides to let it back out in order to suppress the alarm for Amanda's sake.
Ricardo, how did you open it back up? I had to suppress the alert. It was the only way to get Ripley out.
I don't really know what that means, but sure, I guess. Then just when everything's looking bad already, Amanda runs straight into a random ass explosion, which honestly made me shit myself. Holy fuck, man. But once again, Amanda survives like she's a fucking Terminator that just won't die. Oh my, what the fuck? After that explosion, the plan has changed slightly. Now Amanda has to power up the elevators, which turns into a very long and complicated process, where you've got to activate all these breakers in the nearby vicinity and call in an android to help, because it can't just be simple for once. And now Amanda needs to lead the alien into a part of the ship called Project KG-348, which can be detached from the ship and flung into space. But after all this work Amanda put into this plan, and just when she's about to leave with the alien trapped inside, the Marshal, being the dickhead he is, decides to lock down the lab's exit early to not risk the xenomorph escaping again, locking Amanda in with the alien and flinging them both into space. But what the Marshal doesn't know is that Amanda is the main character in this game, not him. So with an immense amount of plot armor on Amanda's side, the lab's backup gravity turns on, and there just happens to be an emergency airlock for her to use too, which lets Amanda launch herself into space and somehow grab onto a part of the station which happens to have a door she can open and enter through. So, you know, the Marshal is obviously shocked that she's still alive and has made it back onto the station so quick, because who wouldn't be?
Ripley, is that you?
Yes, wait! Me, you son of a bitch!
Ricardo then calls in on the radio right after the Marshal is done explaining himself to tell us how thankful he is that we're still alive, and is the first to apologize.
Ripley, it's Ricardo. You made it.
No thanks to Waits.
He's a ruthless son of a bitch, always has been. Stubborn too. I'm sorry for fucking up with the lockdown earlier.
Forget it. You got me out in the end.
Which is crazy considering the Marshal literally went out of his way to have us flung into space and still hasn't even said sorry once. He also warns us that the androids are moving outside of their usual areas.
I'm about to rain on the parade. Something's up with the androids.
Something's been up with the damn androids since I got here.
No, this is new. They've left their posts. I just saw some of them in the public area. That's not normal.
So after getting rid of one threat, we're now cursed with another. But at least we can actually kill this one. Just before we get back to HQ, we hear the Marshal being murdered by an android.
Bastards, you murdering bastards. Leave them alone. Stand down. Bastards.
Which isn't a great sign, and as expected, a bunch of people are dead. The only ones left alive are the legendary Ricardo, Taylor, Samuels, and Marlowe, who recently escaped his cell. So now we're on a mission to find Samuels, who prior to this went to find Apollo, which is basically the main operating system for everything to do with the station, including the androids. So after surviving a faulty elevator, finding the answer to the most annoying puzzle in this entire game, and killing a bunch of androids in the process, we finally find Samuels, who is planning on integrating with the Apollo's AI so that he can stop the androids from killing anyone else on the station. Amanda helps by trying to disable Apollo's security measures in the process, but it's not enough, and Samuels is subsequently killed by Apollo. But in a last-ditch effort to help Amanda, he opens up access to Apollo's core, to give Amanda at least a chance to reason with Apollo herself. So after Samuel's heroic sacrifice, we escape the facility alive and make our way straight to Apollo's core, where we have to unfortunately give up our weapons before entering. We avoid a bunch of very dangerous androids that are somehow way tankier than they were already, and hack our way to the core, which ends up not helping us in the slightest. as Apollo and the company is revealed to be behind it all and having the androids act like this on purpose, with the main goal being to conserve the alien so that it can be used for testing or profit. So basically the exact same reveal that was in Alien 1. But after Amanda asks to stop the special order for the androids because the alien is no longer on the station, Apollo responds by saying that there are unverified scans in the reactor. So now we have to investigate. We quickly make our way to the reactor, which is full of these tanky androids we saw earlier, but now we have a nail gun that's perfect for killing them, so it's not so bad. And after taking the elevator down, we realise that shit has truly hit the fan, as we find a xenomorph nest in the reactor's maintenance, which is already crawling with multiple xenomorphs and plenty of facehuggers too. It was bad enough exploring an entire station with one xenomorph hunting you down, but exploring a xenomorph nest with multiple aliens wandering about like it's nobody's business is just fucked up. But we power through and start activating different consoles as we plan to overload the reactor in hopes of killing them, which sounds like a good plan until all of the now pissed off xenomorphs decide to start heading to the surface, making the station indescribably more dangerous than it was originally. But despite this colossal fuck up, Ricardo still helps us find an ambulance craft so that we can get onto Marlowe's ship that he has finally decided to call in. But when we eventually get on board, the ship seems abandoned and needs powered up. But only after powering it back up with some more unbearable QuickTime events, you find out that Marlowe's actually already on the ship with Taylor.
Hey, Ripley. Welcome to the Anisadora.
Marlowe? Where are you, Marlowe?
Just before finding Marlowe, Amanda finally, after all this time, finds her mum's flight logs that brought her into this entire mess in the first place, which has a short message by Ellen Ripley herself, made for Amanda directly.
Added report. Personal message. This is for my daughter. Hi, Amanda. I'm recording this for you, my sweetheart, and I hope you get to hear it one day. You see, I got into trouble. My ship, there was an accident, sweetheart, and we found an alien creature. It was very dangerous, and the only way we could stop it was to destroy the ship. I'm okay. I'm stuck on this lifeboat, long way out. But we had to destroy the ship. We had to destroy the Nostromo. We just couldn't risk bringing that thing home with us. I needed to protect you. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. I'm sure I'll see you very soon. I love you, sweetheart.
But Amanda doesn't get long to take in this much needed closure, as Marlowe is about to overload his ship, which he hopes will kill everyone in the process, including the xenomorphs, which I guess the game is trying to portray as being extremely evil, but I mean, he kind of makes a good point. Don't get me wrong, killing everyone involved without giving them a choice is definitely evil to a degree, but at the same time, that many xenomorphs being left to live is literally world-ending. Marlowe even makes the point of saying that Ellen blew up her ship and everyone on it to take them out originally.
Marlowe, please.
You heard what your mother did. She understood. If she was here, she'd be helping me. You think she would want company suits knowing the zip code of that creature? No one must know.
Which is a bit different since no one else was left alive and she had no other option, but still, I just don't think he's this extremely evil guy like the game set him up to be. But regardless, Taylor knocks him out mid-villain monologue, which is the first thing she's done this entire game other than complain about hypersleep, so she's definitely redeemed herself here, and she works on shutting down the ship's core with our help before it blows up. Even after stopping it, the ship still tears itself apart, and kills Taylor in the most mundane way possible while doing so. But of course, we escape the ship just in time and make it back to the xenomorph-filled safe haven we all know and love. But just when you thought things couldn't be going any worse, Ricardo tells us that Marlowe's ship has taken out the station's orbital stabilizers.
Ripley, the Anisadora blast took out the orbital stabilizers. We're about to fall from the sky.
Which gives us one last option, to contact the ship we arrived here on, the Torrens, and hope to God they respond. But there's one problem with that plan. Apollo is still blocking any transmissions from or to the station, so Amanda plans to manually move the transmitter dishes to contact Torrens without Apollo getting in the way, which leads to another long and boring space section that is once again drawn out way too much. But I will say, at least visually, there's a lot more to admire compared to last time, and the fact that you can see some of the xenomorphs crawling around the station is a nice touch. But after moving the transmission dishes to the right positions, Amanda finally talks to her captain for the first time since leaving the Torrens.
Ripley, what the hell is going on over there? Bad things, Torrens. There's an alien organism here. It's deadly. We need urgent extraction. A what? There's no time to explain. Please, Verlaine. There's nowhere for us to dock, Ripley. The station's tearing free from its gravity mooring. I've seen a towing platform below the spaceflight terminal, but the Torrens umbilical isn't built for it. You'll need to extend the tow platform clamp station side.
So now you just need to make your way back on the station, extend a towing platform for the Torrens to land on, which, like every other task in this game, is made way more complicated than it needs to be. But sadly, just when you're about to get off the station for good, your biggest help throughout this entire game, Ricardo, has been taken out by a facehugger, being both the saddest and lamest death in the entire game. Just when Amanda's about to leave in her spacesuit, of course a xenomorph decides to ruin the fun. But Amanda still lives somehow. I don't really get what the point of this section is, as you just wake up and have to go back to the airlock again, which just feels a bit tedious. I guess it's supposed to help include a bit of added suspense and maybe try and convince the player to think they'd really just end it with Amanda dying last minute, but it didn't really give me any of those feelings, so it was a bit weird. Maybe that's just me though. Amanda just keeps going through absolute hell though, as she's dodging trains, falling off ladders, and just barely stumbling through the absolute carnage that's left of the station. And to make things even better, the Torrens is now stuck to the station and needs to be released before they both plummet together. So Amanda makes it out the airlock for real this time and starts operating the release mechanisms, which may have the slowest process to work them than anything else in this entire game, which is saying a lot. All the while the xenomorphs are all making their way towards you, which adds a little more pressure to the whole thing. But just when the xenomorphs are about to get you, Amanda hits the button and launches them into space with her latched onto the Torrens, while the station falls to a nearby planet. Amanda makes her way back onto the Torrens after all this time, and everyone lives happily ever after, is what I would be saying if this was anything but an Alien game. Clearly Amanda's not the only one with insane plot armor. She launches herself into space in a last-ditch effort to get away, and is left floating in space. But oh wait, oh my god, it's a light! Holy shit! And that's where it ends. An ominous ending, but it's also pretty obvious that Amanda at least survives. So that's Alien Isolation. Although I do have quite a few gripes with this game, mainly with some drawn out sections that I've moaned about already, a bunch of meaningless QuickTime events that add nothing of value, a bit of an incoherent story here and there, with whole plot lines having no payoff or even making you feel like you've regressed your progress if anything. But the things the game does right are absurdly strong. The atmosphere and sound design in particular are seriously unparalleled to any other horror game I've played. And although I'm not a huge fan of some narrative decisions, I will say that the idea of having you play as Ellen's daughter and the timeline it took place in was really well done, and it made for a very solid foundation for the story to play around with. I like the range of weapons and tools you could use. The game did a good job at balancing its use of each enemy type, which is especially hard to do right in a game with such a hard-hitting main antagonist. Are you joking? You shoot me! Are you insane? Why would you shoot me? I liked the music, which felt very reminiscent of the classic Alien movies. and once again the visuals are insanely impressive for a decade-old game. There's just so much to like about Alien Isolation. What's crazy though is after looking into the game more during my time making this video, I found out that Alien Isolation was actually a bit of a commercial flop. The game shipping just over 2 million units. I guess the colossal failure that was Alien Colonial Marines probably didn't help. Also, some reviews for the game were surprisingly negative, with of course IGN in particular having one of the worst takes I've ever seen, giving it a 5.9 out of 10, and somehow coming to the conclusion that the AI is frustrating and is one of the main negatives of the game despite arguably being its greatest asset. So because of these hit or miss reviews, the franchise's awful history with games, and the title's lackluster sales, sadly the chances of a sequel anytime soon are incredibly slim. But I would love to see one, and hopefully the popularity of the recent Alien movie can help that become a reality someday. But to end this video off, I just want to say that I'm glad I decided to give this game a shot. It's easily one of the best horror games I've played, hands down, and I'd recommend anyone who's a fan of the genre to give it a try themselves, even if you've never seen an Alien movie in your life. Although I would recommend watching the original too if you haven't already, because they are amazing films. But yeah, that's about it for this video. As you can probably tell, I've put quite a bit more effort into this one compared to my usual stuff, so I hope you have enjoyed it. Tell me what other games you'd like to see me make a video like this on next, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.